Hello, and welcome to the last video of the semester. Ah, anyway, nothing new for assignments this week, but I'd like to earn my keep and go over just one more thing that's really relevant to what you're doing with web pages, and that would be law and ethics. So without further ado, here we go. Publication law and ethics. Okay. There are legal issues. Let me do editing. Okay. There are law and ethics are two different things. Laws are things that you can or cannot do, enforced by police and courts. Ethics are things you can do, but maybe shouldn't. There's no such things as the ethics police. Legal issues online on your web pages, biggest one, and we'll go over a lot today, copyright. What can you post? What can you take? You know, obscenity, some forms of obscenity, libel, fraud, that sort of thing. Ethics, there's usually a legal and an ethical side. The ethical side of copyright is plagiarism. Plagiarism is legal, but it's kind of sketchy, and you can get in trouble in class. Obscenity, what you can do is matters of taste. You can drop the F-bomb on a web page, but should you? Criticism, as opposed to libel. Fraud, can't commit fraud, but doesn't mean you have to always tell the truth. You could lie online, you just can't rip people off by your lying. Violence. There's no law against violence online. You could be as violent as you want. Diversity. There's no law that says you have to be diverse. It's a matter of choice. So those are like the big ones y'all gonna face online. Copyright, and I'll go over copyright. It's probably the biggest one you have putting things together on a web page, is the right of a person to use his or her work and own the use of that work. You get to decide if you do something, if you write something, you make a video or a reel or something like that, it's yours. And, when you post it, well, something you may lose that right. You got to read the fine print on YouTube or something like that. Covers all use, reproduction, including derivative work that looks like yours and plays with it. Now with AI, that's a whole new can of worms. Lasts for 70 years. Civil law. Copyright, there's no copyright police. You've got to sue or be sued. So you got to be able to take somebody to court. So 95% of the time you'll get away with a copyright violation, but you never know. Eventually someone could sue your butt. There's just something to consider. Let me get that link.
Here's an idea. You're not allowed to sing Happy Birthday.
That's true.
Happy Birthday is the Guinness Book of World Records holder for the most performed song ever. You've probably heard it more than all of those Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, Rihanna, and One Direction songs combined. Unless you work in the food court at the mall, in which case I am very sorry. But for all the times your family and friends have sung an off-key happy birthday to you, or you've sung it to a friend in a crowded restaurant and they've turned bright red, there's probably a lot you don't know, like who wrote Happy Birthday? And when? It was Patty and Mildred Hill in 1893. And that you're actually not allowed to perform it in public without licensing it because despite being 119 years old, it's still protected by copyright. Wait, what? I know it's weird, but it kind of makes sense. Sort of. Let's talk about copyright for a second before we decide whether or not Happy Birthday should still be copywritten or copyrighted. Copyright. Copyright is complex, but the aims are noble. One aim is to incentivize creators for making awesome junk, to protect their awesome junk from people who want to copy their awesome.
Metallica was a big copyright case. 20 years ago, the first file sharing program was Napster. Metallica sued Napster and said, hey, you shouldn't be posting our music. Y'all should be buying the album. Makes sense. Metallica won the lawsuit. Napster kind of went out of business, but then they went to Germany and they don't have to follow our laws. And then after that, here comes iTunes, and they worked with the music publishers to say, okay, 99 cents a song. So Metallica gets its cut and you get to see your music, but it all started with Metallica.
Some junk, but don't have the right. That's where the name copyright comes from, actually. In order to copy something, you need to have that right, that copyright. Another aim is to provide a system by which those works end up available to the public, thus increasing the pool of freely available culture. Once a copyright expires, that once protected work is then in the public domain. Once a work like James Joyce's Ulysses or George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain, it's available to Birdie. And not just Birdie in the club, but like Birdie. To remix, remake, alter, perform, go nuts. You could make a novelization of Night of the Living Ulysses, space rock opera.
Yes. Because George Romero put he doesn't protect his copyright. It's his choice. That's why you see so many zombie movies, because the guy who really invented the original zombie movie says, go ahead, I'm not going to sue you.
Opera Ballet on Ice, the movie, and charge $45 for it. Or you could make awesome comics out of classic lit. Link in the description.
You see a lot of, and this is why you also see a lot of classic music in videos, because it's free, no copyright.
But once a work is in the public domain, it means the original creator doesn't profit as easily or in the same way from their creation anymore, which some people, some of whom have a lot of money and very much like their money, think isn't cool at all. Even a little cool. Like imagine if Barbie, Mickey, and Luke Skywalker were in the public domain. There go the revenue models of some majorly successful people and businesses. Not to mention someone would probably make some kind of like terrible Disney-fied Star Wars crossover. Huh?
Yes, Disney owns Star Wars. And they also mentioned Barbie. There's a Barbie movie coming out. Why? Because Disney owns her and it could do whatever it wants.
They did what? You have got to be kidding me. That is the stupidest.
By the way, this is a Simpsons character. PBS, who made this video, paid Matt Groening money to use that character.
To continually protect these creative works, in the US at least, we've been extending copyright terms, thus keeping these things out of the public domain. Historically, we focused more on their ownership and profitability than on adding to the pool of freely available culture. Originally only 14 years, copyright terms grew to 28, 56, and 75 years. Then life of the author plus 50 years, 70 years, 95 years, and in some cases, life of the author plus 120 years. For some perspective, if this had always been the case, you could have been around for the annexation of the state of Texas, and the copyright on your banjo ditty would just about be expiring. Like Violet and the Chocolate Factory, copyright terms keep growing and growing and growing. Now, Happy Birthday isn't nearly as profitable as Mickey, but it is a beneficiary or victim, depending upon how you look at it, of the same system. Patty and Mildred Hill put some blood, sweat, and tears into Good Morning to All, the song which gives Happy Birthday its melody. They sold it to a publisher in 1893, who sold his business to another publisher, whose brother took over and then bought other publishers. At some point in here, Good Morning to All was given Happy Birthday's lyrics, and thanks to innumerable and mercurial cultural forces, it became the song we know and love. Happy Birthday. Not long after that, in the late 20th century, Happy Birthday is now much larger than it was in 1893. Publisher sold for millions of dollars to the Warner Music Group, who still holds the copyright for Happy Birthday until 2030. That's right, the people who own the works for Dio, the Deftones, and Dragon Force own Happy Birthday.
And Home and Garden TV, CNN, and various and sundry other things.
Until the year Ghost in the Shell standalone complex takes place. Happy Birthday rakes in $2 million a year for Warner, who at one point sought royalties for all public performance, including that by wait staff at restaurants like...
Yes, Red Lobster pays Warner a fee every year so their wait staff can sing Happy Birthday to
Red Lobster, which feels just icky. Holding a 100-year-old piece of much beloved and shared culture hostage for something like 0.1% of your annual revenue? HBD has certainly come a long way since that.
That was Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino.
Kindergarten classroom in the 1890s. The history and legality of this whole thing is complicated and really interesting, but Happy Birthday seems to indicate that maybe we've tilted towards one of copyright's two original aims. If you want to know more, there's a really great paper by Robert Brown Eyes about Happy Birthday and copyright. Link in the description. But the essential argument is this. At the point that ASCAP was shaking down Outback...
ASCAP, Association of Songwriters, Composers, Artists, and Producers, licenses music. Bars and restaurants pay a fee each year to ASCAP. That's why cover bands could come in, because the venue pays the fee, not the band.
Steakhouse for protection money, like some sort of chain restaurant mafia, were Mildred or Patty or anyone even related to them benefiting at all. And furthermore, is the fact that Happy Birthday is still protected, stifling culture in some way. If the purpose of copyright is to incentivize creators while at the same time ensuring that at some point all culture is available, is it militaristic in one way and all loosey-goosey in another way, or is it all gravy? I mean, nothing should be more aggressively protected than the creative work that comes from your soul, right? Not to mention, when someone makes bank at a hedge fund, they don't have to spend their paycheck within 14 years before it becomes a public resource. Just because something is a piece of culture, does that mean we have to treat it differently, allowed at some point to be consumed or performed by everybody, even and maybe especially the staff at Red Lobster? What do you guys think? Should Happy Birthday be protected by copyright? Let us know in the comments and click on my mustache.
Okay. I know it's complicated, but you get the idea. Anyway, to qualify for a copyright, work must be original and recognizably original. Anybody could take a picture of Chamberlain Field and people walking across it. It's not that original. But if you have a lightning strike hitting the gateway there, that's original if you capture that. Work must be able to be used professionally. It is automatic. You don't need the copyright symbol to get your copyright protected. It's just natural, and you got to do it yourself. Here's cutting and pasting. Oh, anyway. That one went away. But yes, you can copyright a link, but not original material. All right. Okay. What is public? that anybody could use. Public documents, expressions made in public. You can record somebody saying something in a public place. Information, news, facts, theories, opinions. Expired copyrights, things not recognized as original, something that has no value. Items put in the public domain, like George Romero's zombie movies. Web links, but not web pages. Libel, another thing, must be, if you're going to hurt somebody, must be both defamatory and false. If you say something false and nobody gets hurt, it's okay. There's no law that says you have to tell the truth. But if you hurt somebody with your lies, then you're in trouble. Defenses against libel: truth, fair common opinion, and jokes. But the audience must know it's a joke. So that's why they put all sorts of swirlies and things. Publication, false light is a problem. That's when you put somebody in a bad context, such as a preacher walking in front of a sex shop. Ethics. Things, first you have to decide the issues, and we talked about that earlier. Codes of ethics can help you decide. They have guidelines. Okay, professional guidelines that you can look up. But they don't cover everything, and there's no enforcement power. Who also can help? Your audience. Do you want to put something that people looking at your video isn't going to like? Your employer, they can decide. Is anybody harmed? Does the audience know what you're doing? These are all good questions to ask yourself, if you have an ethical issue. Commonly copyrighted things. Music. Again, people, they're big on copywriting music. Don't put professional music in your videos. Concerts, plays, and performances. Writings. Facts may be public, but words that describe them are not, if they are recognizably original. So you could, this is where plagiarism comes in. You can say the fact, you can summarize, you could comment, but you can't cut and paste a whole paragraph of exactly somebody's words. You can sum up those words, but you can't cut and paste all of them. Images, drawings, arts, photos, commercial ideas, patents, shows, movies, sporting events, software, hardware, stuff. Gray areas, orphan copyright. If you don't know where it really comes from, you may or may not be able to use it. Unusual items, teal Tiffany boxes. Tiffany wants to copyright that teal, Tiffany and Company. They want to copyright the teal color, that teal. They want you to say, hey, this is Tiffany, just looking at the color. They want to copyright that color. They haven't won in court, but they're going to give you trouble if you use that teal, because it denotes Tiffany. View of an item, if it's a trademark, and non-commercial use. One exception, educational purposes. If it's just for a class, copyright doesn't matter. But if you post it for the public, then it is a deal. Protecting your copy, there's no copyright police, but you have to know and sue. Embed some watermark, word, or regular. This is what map makers do. There's always a mistake in a map, and they can track down that mistake and prove, aha, this is an original one, or somebody stole my map. Warnings, put a warning, copyright protected, and just overall vigilance. Plagiarism, use of material without acknowledgement of authorship, making your own work look original when it's not. This is where AI may be coming in. This is ethics, not legal. No law against plagiarism, but there are rules. And rules can be lead to a loss of license or other privileges, like a grade, but not jail. So you need to cite and say where stuff comes from. Modern issues in copyright. Corporate ownership. Google owns a lot of stuff. Do you need their permission? Depends. Inability to police. You can't track down if you post something online, who knows who's using it? Licensing. You can have somebody come in and say, hey, I want to use your work, or you can write to somebody and ask for one use. Fair use, like commentary, is, what is commentary? It's kind of fuzzy. International copyright, there was a big convention, 1988, no enforcement power. We agree that countries want to honor copyright law, but there's no enforcement power. The Chinese did not sign on to the Berne Convention, so they steal our stuff all the time. And the general lack of awareness on copyright law. So think of these things as you put your projects together. Nothing new work-wise, but this is just a word of the wise for the week. Anyway, I'll post this, put it on a general note, and remember, all you have to do is finish the web page. It is due Monday, the 24th at midnight. I'm here for any questions. If you want to send me a draft or an early version, I'll look at it and I'll make some suggestions. Anyway, pleasure working with you. Just keep in touch, email, talk. I'm around.